It's a good to have you stay with us on Core Digest Extra this wonderful Saturday morning. We are talking about the steps to financial liberation. Matters arising. Have you been bothered about the state of the economy, the rate of inflation, the foreign exchange, and the prices of commodities and all that? And you just wondered, how can I just break through all of this? I mean, this is disheartening, this is disturbing, this is terrible. What other adjectives do we use? I mean, just think of them. And you're just looking for a way to make some good progress. Let's look at the opportunities available. What are the options? Which can you, depending on who you are at the moment, what you do at the moment, which one can you fit into to be able to just get out of that web or that net as it were. I have a business expert with me in the studio, and together, of course, we would look at this matter. She's Vivian Ani. Good to have you join us this morning.
Hi, Vivian. Hi.
All right. So, I think, of course, you're not alien to what's going on around. And I believe it's not just a Nigerian thing, even across the world.
Global.
Yes, people, it's like the economy just keeps shrinking and shrinking. What could be the reasons for this? First?
Don't forget, too, our lifestyles, too, have become a bit bloated. And I'll give you an example.
In spite of the shrinking economy?
Yeah, no, generally, see, look at it this way. The money that was spent on school fees for you was significantly higher than somebody who came 10, 15 years before you. The money that's been spent on little kids now as school fees, honestly, when at times you hear this money, you almost have a small heart attack. You know, a lot of money. Don't forget that this is the age of smartphones.
Oh, yeah.
Don't forget this is the age of data. This is the age of, before.
And in our climate, it's not free. So
it's not free.
For it.
Serious money you're paying for it. Look, some years ago before GSM, people who are old enough to remember what life was before GSM, making a phone call was not a regular thing. Once in a while, you make a phone call. You know, the typical way of meeting people was you drive there, you meet them. But now, social media is there to take up all your data. Phone calls
your stress.
And your stress. True. What I'm saying is that the bills too have skyrocketed because of the kind of lifestyles we live now. Do you know that the average middle class family in Nigeria, upper middle class, I'm not talking about lower or middle class, talking about upper middle class, people who they're not, rich like that, but they are rich. Their dream is to have their kids school abroad. Before it wasn't like that. When you have one child schooling abroad, that is when you will understand the meaning of financial issues in Nigeria, because that money that you spend on that child for 1 year, and first degree is 4 years, and some even have their kids do masters, what you spend on 1 year, you would spend in the good old days, in the generation that came before your kids who schooled in Nigeria, you spend like 10% of that. So that is why everyone is under so much pressure. So between recharge card, data, schooling abroad, then you would not add trips abroad to go and make sure that that child is not being... You would not add the fact that a lot of upper middle class Nigerians also want to buy houses abroad so that madam can be permanently abroad most of the time. Conversion rate is 400 to 1. Hey, how far? So it's on... You see, the financial issues are on different levels. The higher you go, the bigger the lifestyles for these issues I've just talked about. Even if you're on the lower level, you can't escape recharge card issues, can't escape data issues, you can't escape transportation issues. So, there are issues. But what I always say is that there are two ways to address financial stress. You either reduce your costs or you increase your income. Two ways.
So which seems more easy? Which seems easier to opt for?
Both.
Okay, so let's talk about the two.
You have to do both.
Maybe we'll begin with reducing your costs.
Boss, I'm sure you know exactly what I'm going to say. I'm sure you know exactly, so because I have said this thing before.
So if on a weekend, perhaps you would just hang in some bar or just do some hanging with friends, just cut it down, hang in your house.
Before you even get there, the very first thing is to have a budget. Have a personal budget. Because, and before you do, for the month, before you do your budget, track your expenses for 1 month and you'll be amazed and shocked on how you're spending money. I see a lot of guys when I'm passing drinking joints, and every day you pass a certain drinking joint, I pass, and you see a certain group of guys there. And you look at when you meet these guys outside the drinking joint, they're complaining to you about how there's no money. And you think of the fact that each day they spend in that drinking joint, at least $1,000 And that is being conservative. 1,000 naira they spend. 1,000 times 30 days in a month is 30 grand.
How much do they make?
And how much are you making? Okay, now you think of the fact, for we women, then you think of the ashwebi.
Oh.
You think of the weave-ons, hair. You think about hair. You think about making your hair. Look, right now, if you walk into an average salon, hairdressing salon, if you want to fix hair, want to fix weave-on, you will spend money on buying the weave-on, and you will not spend less than 3,000 or 4,000 naira. And okay, fine. The argument is you use it quite a couple of times. Fixing in most salons is between 1,500 being the very cheapest and 3,000-4,000 being the more expensive class. Think about it. Now, if you're a lady and you want to be fixing your hair every 2 weeks because you want to do variety, wahala today. If you are the ashwebi type and you want to take every friend's ashwebi, wahala today.
Because you're everybody's friend, right?
You're everybody's friend, wahala today. If you are the Uber type, meaning that from here to here, you've never quite learned the bus system in Lagos. You don't have a car, and you've never really bothered to learn the bus system in Lagos. You become the Uber because really it's a class thing. You don't want your friends see you jump in a bus.
Oh my goodness.
All right. Now you do the Uber number. So by the time you track, first of all, before you do your budget, so that is a realistic budget, track your expenses over 1 month, and you'll be stunned. For we women, a lot goes on our looks. For the men, a lot goes on shaking beer and drinking and eating nkwobi. Please, sorry, if the people who run beer parlor joints, forgive me, but it's the truth. A lot of that money, and don't forget, each time you shack nkwobi and you drink beer, you're eating out. But men don't see it as you're eating out.
So it's the real. It's not eating the real.
No, they call it hanging out. Hanging out goes with. So for everybody, where your money goes is different. Right? Like I've said, I've already talked about school fees pressure. I've talked about, in Lagos, it's almost as if there's a race for who will charge more school fees. In the last about 5 years ago, that race started. So it's like, you charge this, I will charge more. And after a while, parents started to think that the more a school charges, the higher the quality, which is not true. I have one leg in education, which is not true. So for everybody is to go back, track your expenses for 1 month. It is now easy because there are apps. You can download apps that can help you track your expenses. Every money you spend, put it on that expense sheet.
So you know how much.
So that you know how much.
All right. So could we just take up this assignment? Today is 8th of September, so it's not too late to begin.
Yes.
So let's just track for the next 1 month.
Track.
And let's see how much
Precisely.
we're spending compared to how much we're earning. Now let's try the other option. Okay.
Increasing
how
income.
do we increase our income?
There was something you said at the beginning of this session. You said that this financial planning issue or constraints or financial is global, and indeed it is global. It is only in Nigeria where you see people having one source of income or one job. No, let's call it one job. If you go to, do you have relations who live in the US?
No.
You don't, okay. If you have friends, you have relations that live in the US, you will find out that it's very difficult to track that. You can't just call the person anyhow. It's not like Nigeria where you just pick up the phone and you expect the person to pick up. You're not going to get an answer. That phone is going to ring out, and that person is going to call you back later when they're free. Because most of them have, the minimum is 2 jobs to make ends meet. And even with those 2 jobs, they find it very, very difficult to make ends meet. It's only in Nigeria you see a civil servant who resumes work at 9, best of times, at times at 10, closes at 4. And really, after work, what they do is that they just go to some beer parlor and shack and enjoy themselves. If she's female, she goes back home, cooks for her family or whatever. And then at the end of the month, you get that little pittance. And you compare it to, by the time you've tracked your expenses, you compare it to what you're spending. And you find out that every month there's a gap. Or even if there's no gap, there's very little left for you to put aside for an investment or for savings. Now, what you now have to ask yourself is, what is your time worth? Really, what is your time worth? I tell people, I say, look, I moved away from, I was one of those people that was very, very focused on certificates. I was one of those people that, and I am very impressed by certificates because I know how much trouble you go through to acquire those certificates. However, I am also more impressed with skills. You see, certificates are things, basically, you go to school, they give you something, you learn it, you go to an exam, you pour down what you have learned and blah, blah, blah. But skills are the outcomes of learning. So what I say to a lot of people is, how many skills do you have? You're complaining, no money, no money, no money, no money. How many skills do you have?